Female pedophiles. There's a great deal of controversy about this. In fact, when I brought up the issue that women could sexually abuse children, I was vilified. I was cast out of the sisterhood. I was no longer a good feminist because sexual abuse had to be under the guise of male power. And if I had a significant number of women who were sexually abusing children and I knew about these women, then that messed up the male power thing. And surely if women were going to abuse children, then they had to be doing it under the thumb of a man. A man had to be telling them to do it. So there are female abusers. They haven't been recognized. They've been able to disguise their abuse, I think, more cleverly than men have. And society doesn't want to believe that there are female abusers. It's easier to think it's a nasty man.
Do women tend to only commit child abuse if there's a man involved as well?
No, no. In over 75% of the cases, the women acted completely alone. Most times there wasn't even a man in the premises. So, you know, the excuse. And it's interesting about us as women because we're quite willing to accept that we are a superior breed and that we do everything right. But quite unwilling to accept that we could do anything quite as horrible as this. So it's, you know, it's really not us. We had a conference about this eventually in, I think, '94, maybe earlier. 400 people applied to come to this conference. It was a huge conference. But 30 people, between 20 and 30 people came, dotted themselves in the audience, and tried to disrupt it. They were yelling that, you know, why was I paying attention to women? It wasn't women. I was taking the attention away from men. The irony was we'd given them all free places. That was a mistake. But one of the women who was going to talk about her own abuse, who was now helping others, then couldn't face the audience. So you had this uproar. You had people in the audience turning on these women who were standing up saying, "Sit down, we want to hear about this." And you had them shouting, and it was absolutely strange. And very sad, because it was like, don't tell me this information, even if it's true, because I don't want to hear it. And if those women who came along to our conference had had anything to do about it, nobody else would have ever talked about it. It would have just gone away.
Who are these people that were disruptive? The
people who were disruptive were people who were survivors of male abuse, very, very strong feminists. I've always considered myself a feminist, but boy, they've got me beat all hollow. They are feminists on the extreme, i.e., let's just do away with men and have sperm banks. It was that sort of thing. Many of them, you could not actually tell what gender they were, although I knew that they were women because they had disguised their own gender. And they were very angry. Very angry.
One argument against even the idea of female paedophiles is that women don't have penises, and so can't really do anything too serious.
Women tend to use objects, broom handles, bottles. One woman said that she was sexually abused by rose stems with the thorns still on, being stuck up. Women can be quite cruel using objects, but they're still after their own sexual gratification. So it's kind of, it's just a physiological thing, the difference.
Sexual abuse by women has the same foundation as that committed by men. They've generally experienced childhood abuse themselves. Women are not immune from turning into abusers, as we like to think. By pretending that female paedophiles don't exist, we have little protection from them. The link between those that have been abused and then go on to abuse, is that the same whether the victims are male or female?
It does seem to be. The women that I know who have sexually abused children do seem to have been abused in their childhood. I talked to one of them who said, "Oh, I just want to have sex with kids because sex with children is beautiful. It's non-threatening. It's what happened to me when I was a child." So I think that the link of adult female abusers with abuse in their childhood is the same as a link with adult male abusers In other words, most of them have been abused as children in some really dramatic way. I'd written several books about how it was men who sexually abused, and maybe only 5% of abusers ever would be women. And I remember a summer radio time program. You know, in the summer, they're desperate for something to talk about, and everybody's out of town anyway. So this one presenter rang me up and he said, "Come on and talk to me about any cases of female sexual abuse you might have." Well, at that point, I only had maybe 10 or 11 or 12. I can't remember. So I went on this program and I talked about women abusing, and it opened up a floodgate. We had tons of telephone calls into the program from adults who thought they were the only ones. And then by the time I got back to my office, we had even more. And it kind of was a snowball effect. It was like when we first started talking about sexual abuse at all, when the adults would say, "I never knew it happened to anybody else. I didn't know that, you know, my dad or my uncle or somebody abused me. I didn't know anybody else did this." Same thing was happening with women. You know, it was men and women ringing, saying, "I was abused by my mother, by my aunt, by a nun, by a teacher, by, you know, all kinds of different people." I was shocked. You know, I don't expect women to sexually abuse. I really, really thought it was a tiny, tiny problem. Yeah, women who sexually abuse children like to have jobs where they're around children, nursing, teaching, daycare, things like that. You really don't think twice. I mean, most parents don't think twice about leaving their children in care of a woman. They do now think twice about leaving their child in care of a man. Again, I think that that's wrong. But there you are. That's what's happening. So they will find jobs where they can get in contact. It's like an alcoholic in a bar. You know, if you can possibly, if you've got an addiction, and this is an addiction, then you will go to some place that you can actually practice your addiction. And any place around kids is a good place.
I know there are plenty of women who commit paedophilia, and they get away with it because of the mother expectation, because of the image that they can use of the motherly type. So a woman can go to a schoolyard quite happily and watch the children go by, but if a man does, there's something perverted going on there, and that's how a lot of older female paedophiles get away with it and continue to get away with it, and they will do, because we're letting them. If we think about women and men in that way, then we're making it easier for them to.
The vast majority of the people who have contacted me have told me that it was their mother who sexually abused them. Now, I wouldn't like to say that that's what's happening necessarily with child sexual abuse everywhere by women. But the mother can disguise what she's doing, putting cream on the child, bathing the child, holding the child in bed. You know, society thinks, "Ooh, that's okay, because it's a mommy." Maybe it's a bit suspect because it's a dad, which I think is very sad, but that's how it goes. Women who sexually abuse kids, if you look in the media, have affairs with them. They seduce them. The victims, if they're boys, are always described as older than their age. They look bigger. The woman who ran off, I've forgotten her name, she ran off about 2 years ago to Florida with a 14-year-old boy. She was his teacher, I think she was 30-something. This was described as an affair. And my comment was, if that had been a 31-year-old man who'd run off with a 13 or 14-year-old girl, would we have described it as an affair? No, I don't think so. We excuse women. We don't want to believe it. And as Germaine Greer said to me on a television program, well, if it is a woman having sex with a young teenage boy, i.e. a 13 or 14-year-old, and he gets an erection, then clearly it's his responsibility. And I'm going, excuse me? This is not logical. So it seems that the boy, if it's a boy, the boy is blamed in any event.
Hey guys, it's Nicole here back on this super early Monday morning. I hope you guys are all doing good out there and welcome back to Nicole's View. Fair warning, my voice may sound a little hoarse. I'm trying my best not to strain it too much, but I definitely wanted to do this video before I lay head to pillow. It's been bothering me a lot. I've mentioned it in the last 2 live streams that I've done, and I'm very disappointed and upset that the actor slash comedian here, DeRay Davis. I'm very upset that his story is not being told on a larger scale. It's being talked about, on the little celebrity blogs, little low level blogs. I've seen it on The Root and I've seen it on, those type of blogs or websites, but nothing big. And I find it very problematic. I find it disturbing, disgusting, and everything you can think of. Okay. So in my video, you're going to see famous black male celebrities who have been either raped, molested at a young age by women, or maybe by males. But the majority of the folks in the slide, the males, they were by women, grown ass women who did this. So I'm going to start off talking about DeRay. Now, for those who don't know, DeRay Davis is best known for roles such as Barbershop 1 and 2, the All-Star Comedy Jam festivals that they have. Imagine That, Jumping the Broom, and all that good stuff, okay? So he was doing an interview with DJ Vlad, okay? And we all know that DJ Vlad is the ultimate culture vulture. I feel, and many of us feel, that this dude should have no platform. No black people should be going to him. But many of our people, I guess, have not received the memo when it comes to this dude, okay? He's not to be trusted. But I have not seen it. I was told about DJ Vlad's demeanor during it, and it just made me even more so don't watch it, okay? So I'm reading this from a blog, okay, of all places, not a legitimate like news organization, but a blog. And the title is DeRay Davis says he lost his virginity at age 11 to two 30-year-old women. And he also said he doesn't like going down on women because of it, or giving oral sex, basically. We're all adults here. So that title alone is a problem. It should say, DeRay Davis reveals he was raped by 2 30-year-old women, although in the interview he says lost virginity. And see, words mean something. See, this is another way of trying to make it manly or macho. No 11-year-old boy is truly manly. He is still a boy. And I'm going to read this article. And it says, in an interview with DJ Vlad, comedian DeRay Davis ended up revealing something disturbing about his childhood. His mother's friends not only molested him, but also took his virginity. This should simply say they raped him. When DeRay revealed the startling experience, a laugh, as I just mentioned, emitted from the background. The laugh is understandable, as DeRay is a comedian, and you want to laugh at his experiences. However, this particular experience was anything but funny. The conversation opened with a discussion about the Harvey Weinstein accusations and turned to DeRay describing the 2 female pedophiles who took advantage of the comedian's childhood innocence. I've been, as a young guy, my mother's friend. My mother was involved in a lot of stuff, but I've had older women that have taken advantage of me. He called them 2 ugly, horrible-looking women. He said when he was 11, going on 12 and had no hair, okay? So he's saying he still is bald as an eagle. He has no hair anywhere, basically, maybe besides on the top of his head. He called it disgusting. He said that to this day, it's difficult for him to go down on women because of what two women did to him as a child. He called the women's vagina a scary jungle. So basically, we already know what that is. That's him saying that basically these women were unkept. They were just nasty. And yeah. All right. Anyway. In a terrible place to be, and made his Kool-Aid taste different. All right. So basically, that's the short, oh boy, write up on this. Now, this is really just sickening to me. It really, really is. And although I may be talking about DeRay, and I have these photos up of fellow black celebrities, black male celebrities, who have suffered at the hands of female pedophiles. We have to talk about this. And I'm talking about them, but this video is also dedicated to the young black men, black boys who may be at this time being harmed, being sexually assaulted in any type of way, and they're not getting the attention that they deserve. This is all psychological. It's all deeply rooted. So when I look at this picture of Chris Brown, and then we see Chris Brown of today, to me, it totally makes sense. There is this deeply rooted issue here. And yes, I'm not saying we cannot talk about women or young girls who are being harmed in the exact same way. No, we have to have the discussion, but there needs to be an even playing field here. As you saw in that clip, the woman broke down how women are just as much can be just as much as a pedophile than a man can. And see, they can get away with it even better because women are supposed to be looked at as, gentle. We're supposed to be looked at as trustworthy. We're supposed to be looked at as motherly and could never do such a thing. But over the past, 20 years, we've seen the stories of how these female teachers are having sex with their teenage kids, their teenage students. And even when we hear those stories, it's as if it's a joke, as if it's not to be taken seriously. But when the man is the predator and the girl is the victim, suddenly everyone is outraged and something should be done about it. That's a problem. We have to give a voice to the voiceless. Black men and black women, we have to talk about this. We have to expose this. This is not a comfortable conversation to have, okay? Not in the least bit. But it has to be had. And even when I was compiling the pictures and talking to different folks about this in the live stream last night and the night before, I was even shocked to learn of, famous people that we know who's gone through this. I was shocked. And it's just such a horrible thing that boys are not being, I don't want to say cared for, but their pains are not to be acknowledged. And that's a problem. That is a huge problem. Just because they are a male, they're supposed to suck it up. They're supposed to be little men, and it's supposed to be okay. But then you flip it the other way, and then you'll have those talking about toxic you know, the whole toxic thing, toxic male, all that crap. And it's just like, no, there has to be a balance. This is why I could never get down with the whole feminist thing, because it becomes out of whack. Okay? Nothing is even. It's all about me, 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 me. It's like, no, wait a minute. There are other people who are victims of this. And men deserve to talk about this. Men deserve sympathy just as much as a woman does. And I will always feel that way. And I feel like this contributes to people's confusion about sexuality. I feel deeply about that. Now, is that to say that all folks who are molested or not molested or whatever, that they don't want to be great people who live, you know, decent lives? No, but I feel like with some people, it does deeply affect them in some way. So I feel like we have to talk about this. And don't feel uncomfortable talking about this, because this is the only way that we can change society and its perception that only one person can be a victim of this crime. No, that's not true at all. So I just had to get that off my chest. I feel very just sad about this. And I guess with me, I look at my son, I look at it just as deep now. You have to question everybody. Doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. Anyone could be a pedophile. A female can be a pedophile hiding in plain sight. Just think about that. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this video. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.